34 lectures, and under NDEF Series 1, 4 lectures. This is our 5th lecture. All of you are acquainted with these webinars and meeting room schedule and procedure. For new participants, I have to introduce myself, Dr. Pompey Ghosh, Assistant Professor of Botany, Dr. Debabrata Das, Associate Professor of Botany, and Secretary of this webinar committee, with the assistance of Drishtikon organization, are organizing these environment-related webinars since September 2020. So, welcome our research person, Dr. Nirmali Gogoi, and all virtual participants. Without delay, I would like to hand over the mic to Dr. Debabrata Das to welcome our today's research person, Dr. Nirmali Gogoi. Dr. Das.
Thank you, Pompey ma'am. Today's research person is Dr. Nirmali Gogoi. Madam did her MSc Crop Physiology from Assam Agricultural University, Jorhat, Assam. After that, did her PhD from Dibrugarh University, Assam. Under the PhD supervisor, Professor K.K. Borua. Her title of PhD thesis was Methane Emission from Different Rice Agroecosystems of Assam. She did her postdoctoral research at the Department of Biochemistry and Molecular Biology, Oklahoma State University, USA, between 2016 to 2017. She joined in the Department of Environmental Science, Tezpur University, Assam, as assistant professor. Madam,
yes, sir.
Work on various activities regarding particularly plant abiotic stress and its management, greenhouse gas emission and carbon sequestration, very important topic in agriculture and forest ecosystem abroad. Research publication 38 in international journals and 19 in national journals. Research project completed 3 and ongoing research project 3. Reviewed 7 research articles. Published 8 book chapters. Recently, she published 2 papers with other professors and researchers. Particularly, the interesting topic is efficacy of biochar on seed germination and early growth of forest tree species in semi-evergreen moist deciduous forest. This is published in Forest Trees and Livelihood Journal. So many more. So time is not enough. Then I request Madam, please go to the webinar and start your PPT presentation. Madam, please start.
Good evening, everyone. My sincere thanks to Dr. Debabrata Das, Head Department of Botany, GGD College, Lalgarh, Dr. Pompey Ghosh, Head Department of Botany, SPM, Kapgari, West Bengal, Sri A. Zana, Secretary, Drishtikon, Dr. B. Chaudhary, Vice Principal, SPM, Kapgari, for giving me the opportunity to, interact this learned group of people. So today we will be discussing a very important topic, that is sustainability and how biosphere can be an option towards sustainability. So I will start now. So today's topic is biosphere and environmental sustainability. So the word sustainability, we all know, it is nothing but the balance, or we can say the ability to exist, constantly. So the goal of sustainability is firstly derived from US National Environmental Policy Act 1969, that is NEPA. So what sustainable development? That is what that was about sustainability. But what we mean by sustainable development? So, sustainable development is one which satisfies the needs of the present without compromising the future generation to satisfy their own needs. It's a very beautifully, described, defined the sustainable development, because there was a proverb we all know, African proverb, we do not, inherit this art from our parents, rather we borrow it from our children. So definitely we have to take care our beautiful art. So this is why the sustainable development is very, very important at this particular point. So while talking about the sustainable development, so we have to have a look on the sustainable development goals, that is called SDGs. So these goals are basically, framed after successor of the, Millennium Goal. Millennium Goal was first set, and based on this Millennium Goal in September 2015, the world leaders, they adopted the agenda for sustainable development to attain those by 2030. So if you look at those sustainable development goals, so we can see that they are universal in nature, and they focus on driving social, economic, and environmental development. These are 17 sustainable development goals, so who is actually targeted to no poverty, zero hunger, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, and clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work and economic growth, industry infrastructure and industry innovation and infrastructure, reduced inequality, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, and climate action, life below water, life on land, peace, justice, and strong institution and partnerships for the goals. So these are 17 SDGs. Okay, this is known to all actually, but I want to bring actually the importance of these SDGs. So why this sustainability matter? Why these SDGs has been set by so many countries, so many nations, and why they try to find out attain these SDGs by 2030? Because if we look at the life supporting resources and the consumption of life supporting resources, the rate at which they are diminishing, we can see that the life supporting resources, these are clean air, water, stable climate, visible forest and fisheries, they are declining at a very, very faster rate. And the consumption of the life supporting resources are rising at a very faster rate. That's the reason why they are declining, right? So why consumption rate of the life supporting resources are rising? Basically, the population increase is one of the reasons, because population is increasing from 6 billion to 9 billion at a growth rate of 1.1% per year. And consumption rate also increasing about 4 to 6 fold, right? With the advancement of many of the technologies, our grids are increasing, and because of that, the consumption is increasing at a very, very faster rate. So this is the reason why actually, the sustainability, it becomes a very essential, important things, because if you want to live within the environmental limits, we must have to be sustainable, right? So if we look at the pillars of sustainability, so we can see that these are the 3 pillars of sustainability. So if you want a sustainable things, we have to look at the environment, we have to look at the social, and we have to look at the economic aspect. Okay, these are 3 pillars of sustainability. So it is the integration of social, economic, and environmental factors. So if any one of these factors are imbalance, that means ultimately the whole system is going to be imbalanced. So all the three pillars have to have equal importance. Then only the attainment of the sustainability will be possible. So that means I am, as my discussion today is basically on the environment. So if any of these three pillars have to be there to be stable, and if any of the pillar is unstable, definitely it will be like this. Okay, then we cannot, assume a sustainable or cannot expect a sustainable environment. So when we talk about the environmental sustainability, basically these four, things comes into our mind. Basically, first of all, environmental sustainability, to be environmental sustainable, so ecosystem services have to be, in proper place. Ecosystem services, basically, we have to protect, sustain, and restore the health of critical natural habitats and the ecosystem. So, along with that, we have to look at the air, water, and soil quality. So, attain and maintain air quality standard and reduce the risks from toxic air pollutants, reduce exposure to contaminants in water and soil system and infrastructure is very, very important to attain the environmental sustainability. Like that, we have to emphasize on green engineering and chemistry, because if we not opt for green engineering, then pollution due to toxic hazardous material will be increasing, and that can reduce the total life cycle cost. Okay, and most of the important thing here is that we have to focus on resource integrity, right? Resource integrity is very, very important because that can help us to reduce the wastage of resources. Okay, so wastage of resources and also to reduce the waste generation. So these are the important points when we look for environmental sustainability. So this is nothing but these are the major environmental problems. All of we know that these are the major environmental problems: water pollution, air pollution, the food supply problems, biodiversity depletion. These are some of the environmental problems. And waste production is one of the environmental problem. And if you look at some of the environmental problem, basically, air pollution and water pollution, that is very much linked with the waste production. Production of the waste has impact on increasing this pollution as well. So waste is an important aspect when we, management of waste is an important aspect when we talk about the environmental sustainability. Okay. So how waste versus sustainability comes actually? So if you look at the whole world, about 1.3 billion metric tons of municipal solid waste are generated per year in worldwide. And it is expected to rise about 2.2 billion by 2025. So you just imagine the number, how it is increasing, right? And even in India, about 12 million tons inert waste are generated. But the important point here is that the developing countries like India, we don't have, good collection chain of waste and renewable efficiency of the waste. That is the problem here. Okay, and that creates a very difficult situation in management of the waste in countries like India. So it demands the sustainable management of the waste, and if we opt for sustainable management of the waste, it can reduce the consumption rate of natural resources, which is very important for sustainability, and it can confirm the reusability of the resources, or again, it can generate minimum waste. Okay, minimum waste will remain only if you, manage the waste properly. So this is important. So what do we do with the waste then? So waste are generated, this much of waste is generated. What are the, utility of those waste? We have to look at, right? Do we manage agricultural waste sustainably? So now I will, drop down to the agricultural waste. How many sustainable development goals are responsible for waste management and soil health? I have already talked about the sustainable development goals. 17 sustainable development goals are there. And if you look back, most of the, at least 6 to 7 sustainable development goals are very much linked with the waste management along with the soil health. So it basically demands the management of the agricultural waste in general. Okay. So the overexploitation and inappropriate use of soil, if continued, so it can negatively impact on achieving the required food production and sustaining the biodiversity, which is very, very important for sustainable environment. Okay. The contamination of soil by inorganic chemicals, heavy metals, and their toxic impact on agricultural productivity and qualities is a major issue now, because we know that because of use of chemical fertilizer, pesticide, already our soils are polluted. So to reduce that pollution also we have to take a step. So if you look at the agricultural pollution, basically, so agriculture, it gives us food definitely, but it pollutes as well, right? So from the pollution point of view, if you look at the agriculture, it contributes about 60% of annual anthropogenic greenhouse gas emission. So that is basically mainly, due to application of inorganic nitrogenous fertilizer, which can lead to the, production of the nitrous oxide, which is a important greenhouse gas. Okay, and which is linked to the, linked with the global climate change or global warming. So reducing agricultural emission while sustainably meeting the rising demand for food of growing population is earnest need to encounter the ambitious environmental and climate targets. Okay, so there are targets. So SDGs, I have already shown there is target to reduce the agricultural emission or climate mitigation. So to attain that, so it is very, very important that we have to minimize the emission of the greenhouse gases from agriculture. Methane and nitrous oxide are two important greenhouse gases that is emitted from agricultural activities as well. So sustainable development goal cannot be unless waste management is addressed as priority. Okay. So look for tools and help. We have to now look for some tools which can help us, right? So we are actually confused how to manage the waste. There are many ways, but a country like India, we have to choose one which is a very economic, and most of the majority of the people can opt for it. Okay. So in this regard, biochar can be an option. Use of biochar can be an option to use in the agricultural field, which can address many of the issues which is arising at present day in the agriculture. Okay. So biochar, it is nothing but a carbon dominant product. It can be obtained when biomass feedstock are heated at elevated temperature in a closed reactor with little or no oxygen. Okay, so we have to, when we use the biomass, any leftover biomass from agriculture or other generation also, and if we heat it with less or no oxygen, then it will give us some product that is nothing but that is the biochar. So which is basically a very much carbon rich product. Carbon is at highest amount in that particular product. So this use of biochar, it is not a new thing actually. It is from the very ancient time. If you look at, biochar has been widely used to boost soil fertility and crop production. But manifold, its utility are manifold actually. That has not been investigated at that time, and now scientists has been trying to investigate what are the other beneficial aspects of biochar we can attain. We can utilize them for environmental sustainability. So these are some of the properties. Biochar, it has larger surface area, it has chemical composition, different chemical compositions are there. It has strong aromacity and higher recalcitrance value. So this particular property of biochar, it aids towards mitigation of climate change, because that can help in reducing emission of greenhouse gases from the soil, and that can be a very good option. because we can curtail the greenhouse gas emission from the soil by using biosoil. So now some of the production techniques, we actually use these techniques in production of the biosoil. So conventionally, very easy method, we can just simply use this type of clean drum, we can say, and we can get biosoil just by using this type of clean also. And we can use gasifier, we can use pyrolyzer, and also all of we know that bioenergy, production of the bioenergy using plant biomass is a very common technique. And after production of the bioenergy, the leftover pyrolyzed product can also be used as a biosoil. So feedstock, as already I have mentioned, any waste, agricultural waste, even forest waste, animal waste, vegetable waste, and other solid waste, we can use as a feedstock to produce biosoil. That means, in other words, these are waste, right? We can reduce the waste by producing biosoil, and applying those in the soil, we can gain many of the benefits, and curtailing, GHG emission is one of the most, important benefits from biosoil. But now, if coming into detail in the scientific thing, we can see that, the feedstock, type of the feedstock and production technology, whatever the technology you are using, that determines the property of the biosoil. That is very important actually. The property of the biosoil is going to determine the benefits, degree of benefits you are going to attain, that determines by the property of the biosoil. And property of the biosoil is determined by its, method you are producing and the feedstock you are using. So here actually many scientific work have to be done, because all the feedstocks have not been tested against different benefits we can attain from the biosoil. And again, all the methods, biosoil production methods has not been tested. Works is going on, but still many works have to be done here. Okay. So if you look at the properties of the biosoil, so basically, they are enriched with basic cation. Basic cations are higher in biosoil, and that gives rise to the alkaline property of the biosoil. That means if you test the pH of the biosoil, you will find that it is basically alkaline in nature, and that is why, because it has more number of base cations, right? And cation exchange capacity of the biosoil is always high. As I have already mentioned, biosoil, it has larger surface area, and but the surface area of the biosoil, it contains array of functional aromatic hydrocarbon groups. Okay, and this porous structure of biosoil, they contains extractable humic and fulvic acid. Humic and fulvic acid, I guess you will be knowing that this is nothing but this is some carbon fractions, right? These are the labile fractions of the carbon, on which actually microbes they feed on, right? They feed on microbes, they feed on these fractions of the carbon. So higher degree of chemical and microbiological stability, that is recalcitrance, they are stable. Okay, biosoils are stable because it is heated, right? The biomass is heated, making the carbon which is there in the biomass, it becomes stable in nature. That is called recalcitrance. Okay, so it provides long soil residence time. When we apply that biosoil in the soil, it increases the residence times of the carbon in the soil, and that may goes up to 10 years to thousands of years. So what is the advantage of this recalcitrance? Because you see, otherwise you can ask me that if we apply those waste as such, which is normally done actually by the farmers without going for the leftover agricultural waste in the soil, or we can do vermicomposting and we apply in the field. But what happened? The carbon which is there in the biomass in that particular aspect is not recalcitrant in nature. Okay, So what will happen? That carbon will be utilized by the microbes which is there in the soil, and that will release as carbon dioxide to the atmosphere. And that is what we don't want actually, because the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is increasing day by day, and that is the reason of the global warming. So we need to reduce the carbon from the atmosphere and store them in some of the sink. And we know that soil is the important sink of carbon. So by using, making it biosar without using as raw in soil application, we can store the carbon for longer period of time. That is the, another benefit of the, biosar that we can term as carbon sequestration, right? It helps in carbon sequestration. And moreover, the heterogeneous composition, already I have mentioned that, the surface of the biosar, it contains array of functional aromatic hydrocarbons, and also humic and fulvic acid carbons are there. So those are of different nature, some are hydrophilic, some are hydrophobic, and basic cations already there I have mentioned. And also some acidic surface moieties are also there. So altogether, they makes the biosar a reactive surface, okay? And that reactivity, which characteristics of the biosar is very much useful for use in different applications. So we will talk on that. So that heterogeneous composition is very much can be very much well utilized in different sectors, basically to reduce the contamination or to remove the contamination. This compositional chemistry makes biosar a potential absorbent of a wide range of toxic soil contaminants that I have mentioned. So in one place, I have mentioned that feedstocks and production technology on biosar is important, which govern the biosar property actually. So some research have been done in this particular aspect, and where it is found that, so if the feedstock has high moisture content, so it is not good to produce biosar because it inhibits soil formation. Okay, so biomass particle size, particle size of the biomass plays important role in formation of biosar pore structure. Pore structure of biosar is also a very important role. So that pore structure is governed by particle size which is there in the biomass. So another important thing, the level of elemental concentration in produced biosar is determined by elemental content which is there in the feedstock. Okay, if the feedstock is enriched with many elements, definitely the produced biosar will also be enriched with many elements. So pyrolysis, if you opt for pyrolysis process for production of biosar, and if you use slow pyrolysis, not a very fast pyrolysis method, so then what can happen is that it can give higher biosar yield. So biosar yield is nothing but, suppose you are using 10 kg of the biomass and you are getting ultimately not 10 kg, right? After pyrolysis, definitely it will be reduced, and your biosar recovery yield basically 20% or 30%. But if you use slow pyrolysis process, that yield can be of higher amount. Okay, the surface area and pore volume is low when pyrolysis temperature is lower than 330 degrees centigrade. That means, in the production method, the production temperature plays an important role on surface area and pore volume of the produced biosar. So temperature, if it is increased, higher production temperature, it increases the soluble salt content in the produced biosar. So that definitely will increase the EC, electrical conductivity, and pH of the produced biosar. That means it will be more alkaline in nature, okay, if the production temperature is increased. So higher production temperature also increase porosity, surface area, and thus improving water holding capacity of the biosar. So that type of biosar which is produced under higher production temperature, that can, if it is applied in the soil will increase its water holding capacity. Okay, so if the particular soil is is very weak in water retention capacity, we can use that type of biosol. So higher production temperature, about 650 degrees centigrade, if we use, that degrade the labile carbon which is present in the biomass, that means feedstock, and enable strong binding of water soluble organics, and that facilitate higher recalcitrance. That means I was talking about the carbon sequestration potential of the biosol. So the biosol which is produced at higher temperature, it has higher carbon sequestration potential than the biosol produced at lower temperature. Okay, these are some of the salient findings which has been obtained by various researchers working on biosol. So if we talk about the environmental benefits from the biosol, so which actually can be of different types. Suppose it can be used as a biofilter, it can be used as a bacterial carrier. Okay, so we can prepare to the membrane or 3D membrane from the biosol, so that it can be applied for chemical absorption, as catalyst and as redox. We can prepare magnetic biosol also. So biosol as a macroscopic and microscopic, in both the form it can be used. Okay, and the environmental application of the biosol is basically determined by the structure and reactivity of the biosol. It determines the environmental application, which application it will be more suitable, that will be directed by these two particular property, and find out these two particular property using different feedstock and using different production technology is very, very important for this particular aspect. So now coming down to the agricultural benefits we can attain by using biosol, because we have done little bit work on this particular aspect. So we can see that some agricultural waste, raw materials, we can use as feedstock, and we can apply any of the production method. Basically, we have used the conventional production methods, and we have seen that many benefits. So it reduced greenhouse gas emission, improved soil physicochemical properties. It also acts as an absorbent of some of the toxic metals which are there in the agricultural field, and it improved the crop yield and supply plant nutrients. These are some of the benefits we can get by using biosol in agricultural field. So if we look at the soil quality improvement by using biosol, so basically soil physicochemical properties such as soil aggregate stability, porosity, and other hydrological functions are improved because of application of the biosol. So soil microbial properties are also improved because physicochemical properties are improved, and that helps in improving the soil microbial properties. So as mentioned already, biosol is alkaline in nature. So basically while applying in the acidic soil, because our soil is in acidic range, we have find that it acts as a liming agent, resulting in increasing pH, and that increased pH has an important role in nutrient availability, basically in our soil. And it can reduce the overall total bulk density of the soil after application. Porous structure increases the water holding capacity and aeration to the soil. Porous structure of the biosol. So the improvement of the soil physicochemical properties and nutrient status, it promotes seed and porosity, aeration. Those actually that promote seed germination by forming chelates with the salts, heavy metals, and organic compounds that restricts the germination and growth of the seed. Okay, so that fertility status improvement that helps in better plant growth, increases leaf area development, canopy dry weight, and enhance the crop yield. So climate change mitigation aspect, it is seen that the global potential of carbon sequestration of biosphere, it lies between 0.3 to 2 gigaton carbon dioxide per year. It is a huge value actually. So its potentiality towards carbon sequestration is really immense. Biosphere has highly stable form of carbon and stays for a longer time. I already mentioned 10 years to 1,000 years even. Whereas decayed plant material release carbon back directly to the atmosphere. Okay. So if we use no-tillage agriculture, nowadays, many research has suggested that, no-tillage agriculture is good for, reducing the greenhouse gas emission from agriculture. So if we use no-tillage agriculture in combination with biosphere, that can sequester even 330 kg carbon per hectare and has the potential to neutralize about 10% of current fossil fuel emission. We know that burning of fossil fuel, it emits carbon dioxide, and that using no-tillage with biosphere can sequester about 330 kg of carbon per hectare, and that can neutralize 10% of fossil fuel emission of carbon dioxide. Okay, you just see how it can use a kind of carbon credit, right? Carbon credit. We can gain carbon credit, even claim carbon credit by using biosphere. And biosphere application in forest soil has been reported to reduce soil nitrous oxide emission. So next is we want to talk about some pollutant bioavailability in agricultural soil under biosphere application. Already it is mentioned that two special property of the biosphere. One is the pore space. Another is the presence of some functional groups at the surface of the biosphere. These two property of the biosphere has important role in removing the pollutant or bioavailability of the pollutant, removing bioavailability of the pollutant in agricultural soil. Because of these two property, biosphere acts as an efficient sorbent of several groups of pesticides. High organic carbon content, specific surface area, and porosity, it determine the pesticide absorption capacity of the biosphere. These three property will determine how much it will absorb. It improves the absorption mechanism and the bioavailability of pesticide residue for organisms. So that is also very much important. So in organic agriculture or organic farming, it can be a very, very good option, right? So we have done little bit work on biosphere, and from our findings, it has been seen that the cadmium bioavailability is reduced. About 34 to 97% reduction in cadmium bioavailability has been observed under bean cultivation when biosphere was applied. And along with that, it enhanced root and leaf biomass, along with better chlorophyll and MSI content. Then soil immobilization of copper was noted when hardwood biosphere made from hardwood chips was applied under xanthium plantation, and also 72% reduction in phytoavailability of lead was obtained after application of the biosphere, and that was because of the enhanced soil pH and high microbial biomass content. And that leads to the reduction of 72% lead phytoavailability. Okay, that means cadmium bioavailability, lead, and copper we have noted to reduce under biosphere application. So in another experiment, we have seen that. In another experiment, it has been seen that we have tested the carbon sequestration potential of the biosphere, and where it is found that it was a field experiment, and we have seen that it increased the total organic carbon content, about 4 to 10% organic carbon increase. And when we fractionate the organic carbon, we have found that total organic carbon, among this total organic carbon, the particulate organic carbon was 5 to 21%. MBC, that is microbial biomass carbon, was 40 to 55%, and recalcitrant carbon was about 16 to 67%, and humic acid carbon was 2 to 12%, and fulvic acid carbon was 8 to 37%, and that ultimately leads to higher carbon sequestration in the soil. So that was not a very long-term experiment, only 2-year experiment was there, but still there is, possibility that, we can go for long-term experiment to see the how biosoil works with regard to the carbon sequestration in our soil when it is used for a long term. So now comes, I talked about many things regarding, positive aspect of the biosphere. So like everything, there are two sides, but here also, some limitations are always there. So when we look at the limitations of the biosphere uses, so we can see that long-term effects may stimulate loss of native soil organic carbon, because I have mentioned that, that the biomass which contains carbon, that is, converted to recalcitrant form, and that is bringing into the soil. And that may have some impact on the native soil organic carbon if it is used for a longer period of time. That is what actually scientists has been, saying. And moreover, the high electrical conductivity EC is more in biosphere, right? That higher EC, if we apply in the soil, that can result of high soil salinity. Soil salinity can increase because of continuous application of biosphere. So that may have undesirable effect on plant growth, not only plant growth, even the microbial community of the soil. So limited production facility and transportation issues may not fulfill large-scale application demand. So I already mentioned that the recovery rate of biosphere is not too high, 20 to 30% only. So with that recovery rate, actually we need a huge amount of the waste to produce little amount of biosphere, right? So interventions are needed actually to improve this particular aspect. Limited production facility and transportation issues are there. Use of virgin feedstock may ramp up the production cost and might not be cost effective. Okay, as we need larger quantity of waste, that may increase the production cost of the biosphere. So moreover, though I have mentioned that biosphere is useful to remove the toxic component from the soil, but biosphere itself may contain some unwanted components, and among those unwanted components actually PAH, that is polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon, is one of the very, very important toxic compound which may present from very lower to higher amount in some of the biosphere. That depends upon the production technology. The quantity depends upon the production technology and basically the feedstock used. Okay, and apart from PAH, dioxin, phenolic compounds are also present in the biosphere. And definitely, so we'll be look at what is polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbon. They are, carcinogenic in nature. That is means that they can cause cancer even, and they are persistent pollutant. They are, not non-degradable, and that's the reason why, that are difficult organic contaminants to treat once it is, coming in contact with the soil. And these are formed when we are preparing biosphere. These are formed by thermal cracking of the biomass and tend to concentrate in the bio-oil fraction of the pyrolysis product. Okay, so this is why actually the content of those PAHs may lead to the very adverse situation in the soil. The generation of PAHs in lignocellulosic biomass is expected because of the high volatile matter content. If the biomass used has higher quantity of volatile matter content, then production rate of PAH will be high. Okay. So effect of having biosar derived pH in the soil. If the biosar I am using that may having higher amount of pH, then what adverse effect I can expect? The soil nitrogen cycle can be altered as a result of modification of soil nitrification. That is a very difficult situation, right? The nitrogen cycling will be interrupted. That is what we don't want actually. Has the potential to alter the soil microbial community structure, and that is actually ultimately leading to alter the nitrogen cycle. It may also inhibit the seed germination and seedling growth, and harmful to plants and beneficial soil microbes. Okay, so that's why pH, presence of pH is a very detrimental situation. So some research has been done on this direction. So how to reduce the pH in the produced biosar. Okay, biosars produced by slow pyrolysis contain lesser quantities of pH than fast pyrolysis. It has been seen. And pyrolysis process utilizes carbon dioxide as a reaction medium can prove to be a potential option to control the pH content in the biosar. And some scientists even they have given possibility of using microbial community, because in other directions some research has been done where actually it is found that some microbial groups are there who can degrade the pH. Okay, so those microbes can be applied to treat those type of biosar before applying in the soil. Okay, so that can lead to the reduced pH content in the produced biosar. So this is all about benefits and limitations of the biosar. Now just I wanted to mention some of the R&D's issues which related to the biosar. Still some R&D's issues are there where actually we need intervention by all sectors of the science. It is not like that only a particular section of the scientists to have to work here. Even the physics people need to work, the chemistry people need to work, and mathematics people they need to work on this, because till now the important thing is that the modeling of the biosar structure has not been done, and without which actually we cannot expect to work on many of the aspects, as already I have mentioned, the 2D 3D structure of the biosar, biosar membrane produced from the biosar, which can be utilized in removing of the oil in some of the oil contaminated site, removing of the some waste from the effluents, right? And these are waste, but after removal that can be reused, right? Because 3R is very important: recycle, reuse, and reduce use for sustainability. Okay. So and another important thing, the control condition here actually intervention from the engineering is very important. Mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, everybody have to work together to find out most of the studies here done on small scale, but large scale studies has not been done. So large scale studies are needed for control condition of the biosar preparation. And microbial diversity, how microbes will behave for long term. So I have repeatedly used that long term studies are very important. At pilot scale, long term studies are needed. How the native microbial community will work or behave in long term in presence of biosar. That is very much important to know. So without which actually, the advice to use biosar in agricultural field more particularly is difficult, and work have to be done in reducing the volume of the produced biosar, because otherwise it always create issues in transportation of the biosar. If we can, the chemist or engineering people can work together, so we can make some cakes of the produced biosar. It will be very easy to transport. Okay, so the transportation cost will be reduced in that case. So that is another important thing. And Feedstock, actually, to choose the feedstock, whatever research has already been done, it is found that, interestingly, it is found that the animal fecal waste, it is proved to be most, most important or beneficial feedstock for biosol. But we have some, hesitation in using this, and we don't have the infrastructure even, because before using this, we have to treat it, okay, to remove the odor and all. So if we work together, though, that can be a good option in country like India, and that can, solve a big issue of, waste, that waste, sanitary waste, and that can be a good option to utilize in the field, because it has the most mostly it has the highest nutrient content than that of the other feedstock. So technological and infrastructural developments are needed in this case. And cost effectiveness, I already have mentioned. So cost effectiveness, we have to work, or interventions are needed regarding, feedstock, production technology. So we have to improve the production technology so that, biosol yield can be increased. Okay. So coming to the conclusion, so we have seen that the use of biosol can be an option towards attaining sustainable development. Biosol is gaining attention from scientists and policymakers around the world. Effective use of biosol is highly related to its structure and properties. Emphasis should be given on complete understanding of biosol structure and reactivity and functionalization of biosol and its application. Okay, so here actually the understanding is, there is gap in understanding, and we have to work in this particular sector so that all the benefits which we can attain from using biosol can be availed. Okay, so thank you so much for your kind attention. This is small contributions from my laboratory, my research scholars along with me. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Gogoi, for your well-explained lecture on biosol. I think all participants agree with Madam that sustainable developmental goals cannot be met unless proper waste management and make it in priority list. Participants enjoyed the lecture, and from the chat box it shows, and some questions are there.
Yeah.
Madam,
Yeah, ma'am.
you from chat box, will you see this questions or
I can see. I guess I can see.
Or,
Yeah, I'm looking at.
বিপদ সেটা যে পেলে দিবি তো আরে ওটাতে যাওয়া হচ্ছে না, একটু দাঁড়িয়ে যাচ্ছে না।
I think I am not getting the questions. How biosol will be applied in practical situations, say in organic farming of an acre of land, and availability of biosol and quantity required, cost involved. Okay, so very good question. Dr. Nath, it's a very good question. Actually, so we can use just like other organic amendments, the same quantity we can put on for organic cultivation. But before that, knowing the native soil pH, basic soil pH is very, very important, because, as already I have mentioned, it will increase the soil pH. If your pH of the soil is originally in alkaline range, definitely you have to reduce the application rate. And the cost involvement, you can make your own biosol actually. I have shown you the, what is called the conventional method. You can use a clean, so you just burn it and just, cover very tough. Conventional method you can use, and definitely if you want to go for other methods of preparation, definitely the cost will be more. So I guess I have answered your question.
Madam,
Yes.
from my corner, one question.
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
This term biochar actually first time I heard from
Yes.
your lecture,
Yes.
and
Yes.
you said that this biochar was used widely in ancient times,
Yeah.
and
Actually.
I have no idea.
Yeah, actually, in very, when there was, the old cities has been discovered, there it was found that, they have used biosar. So that is ancient actually. Yeah.
So then I think, how can one personally one can produce it from local waste? Is it possible?
Yes, we are producing from our own waste, means agricultural waste, and we are using in our research experiments.
But
So I have shown you the, sorry?
Personally it is possible.
Yeah, possible. The conventional
okay.
method, conventional method. You
Later
can
I will
use.
contact with you, madam.
Yes, sure.
Later I will contact with you.
Yeah,
My
sure.
college has 4 hostels, and there are so many ways. So from
Yes,
hostel,
yes.
kitchen
Yes,
waste,
yes.
and garden also in my college. So many
Yeah.
ways. So
Yes,
I
yes,
think
yes.
from your idea, it will
Yes.
help me.
Yes, definitely, ma'am. I will be
Okay, madam.
happy to help you. Yeah. Any question? I got
yes.
only one question. A bad practice of
question,
burning jungle at the end of winter season nowadays being performed very often, as well as agricultural waste in field. How can bad practice like this be controlled? How farmers can produce biosar? Yeah, how farmers can produce biosar, I have given the methods actually. But still, the R&D issues are there in the methods. The cost-effective methods yet to come actually work. People are working. So if you look at many, research things on biosar, you will find so many works are going on. And the production aspect actually is still many works have to be done. And Dr. Santra is asking a very good question actually. So the burning of jungle at the end of the winter season, it's causing actually very, very havoc, that is air pollution, and that is not good for the soil even. And this can be controlled with some policy. So government have to give some policy that if you if you just sell your that the leftover product, we will pay you this much. We have to pay something, otherwise they will opt for the they are poor farmers, they will opt the easiest way. So we cannot blame them actually. From my thinking, I think like that way. But if the government come up with some of the policy, if you just sell us this, there should be some point where they can sell their those agricultural waste. Definitely everybody will opt for that, right? So that may be minimum amount, but if there is a provision that the van will go and collect the waste, and while collecting they will pay something to the farmer also. Definitely farmers will agree on that, right? So I think I answered your question.
Some question also there, madam.
Yeah, I'm looking at. What are the, yeah.
Dr. Soumya Banerjee asked about temple floral waste. And
Yeah,
how
sorry?
can we produce
Simple.
temple floral waste, and
Yeah, simple
how
floral
can
waste.
it be used for biochar production?
Yes. Actually, in one point I have mentioned that the moisture content in the feedstock. Every waste you can use actually, but before that we have to reduce the moisture content of the feedstock up to certain level. So, so that also can be used. Yeah, everything can be used. So I told you, even the fecal waste can be used, and it is found to be the best one.
Thank you, madam.
Yeah, any question? So it's very nice, interaction. I loved it. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, everyone, for your nice comments, and it's a great experience for me. And I love to have again, if anything comes, I'll have to interact you. And if you want to know anything, so you can, I can have my. So I just write my email ID here, so you can send me mail.
Madam, myself Devabrat.
Madam, myself Devabrat.
Yeah, sir.
My last
Yeah.
question is,
Yes, sir, please.
I have written in the chat box.
So you have written in the set box? Yeah.
In the
Okay.
chat box.
No, my request to recommend to use biomass directly to bury back in soil, who should enhance soil carbon and natural form of mulch. Making biochar by burning agricultural biomass would lead to nitrogen level and carbon dioxide level into the atmosphere. Oh no. So this is the question. It's asked by Prasad SBL. No. So
No, my
actually-
question is another.
no, that I have not.
Both of
Yeah, sir, I will come to your question. So this was earlier question by Prasad SVL. I guess
Okay.
he will be here. So actually, that question he is asking that way we cannot remove the soil pollutant, right? Soil pollutant, if you want to remove from the soil, that just burying the biomass in the soil, it will not help. And moreover, just burying the without going any decomposition, if you just directly bury the biomass into the soil, release of nutrients from that particular state, it takes many years, a longer time. So if you use it in agricultural soil, definitely the crop duration is hardly 6 months. Agricultural crop, most of the agricultural crop, so definitely it will not get the benefit. And not only from use as the agricultural soil amendment, I have shown that manifold applicability of biochar. So I have shown in a picture, so in from that angle, definitely we cannot say that biomass should be only used, biomass should be only used in the as raw in the soil. So it should not used for making biochar. Definitely it should be used for biochar making, because biochar has, apart from soil amendment, I have mentioned the drawbacks also, but without working to resolve those drawbacks, we should emphasize, right? Because the manifold uses of biochar, we cannot compare the raw use of biomass directly, right? So I guess it is clear now. Yeah, sir, your question. Sir, you have question. Carbon load of various species from various region is different. So it is different for biochar production. Sir, yes, definitely. The ultimately whatever carbon is there in the biomass, that is going to be present in the biochar also, right? What is the carbon and other nutrients, it is originally present in the biomass or plant species. That is, you are going to expect in the produced biochar as well. It will be little bit different, but as such, the biomass, it has a very higher quantity of carbon. All of we know, because whatever carbon it is generated during photosynthesis, it is ultimately stored in every part of the biomass, and that is you are converting to fixed carbon. Okay, so definitely little variation will be there, but it is enriched with carbon. Sir, I guess I have replied your question.
Yes, ma'am, yes. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess, I submitted. I think there is no question, ma'am.
No questions,
Yeah.
ma'am. And
Yeah.
thank you again for your
Yeah.
very good interaction.
Yeah.
I
Thank you
really
so much.
enjoyed the lecture, madam.
Yeah, I also enjoyed the interaction. Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank
Okay,
you,
sir.
madam.
Yeah.
I am
Have a
really
great-
working on waste management and
Yes.
only household waste.
Yes.
And this is my this is a new idea come from
Yeah.
your end.
Yeah. Definitely, you can send me message. So mail, I have shared the email ID, and email ID is with you also.
Okay, madam.
Okay, thank you, thank you. Have a good night to all of you. Good night.
Thank you, madam.
Good night.
Then
Good night.
we are going to end this program
Yeah.
as there are no questions. I think, and no question, madam.
Yeah, yeah.
So good night. Good night
Good
to
night.
all of
Good
you.
night.
And
Good
thank
night.
you, madam.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, madam. So today's program is over here. So participants are requested to go to the next webinar. So we will put the feedback. We will put the registration from link to the group, that is WhatsApp group and Telegram link group, Telegram group. So go to the link for registration for next program. Thank you again. Good night.